Okay. So officially, I'd like to welcome you all. My name is Sergio Monteiro. I am currently the Vice President for BRAZ-TESOL. So on behalf of the Executive Board and all the members, I thank you all for being here today, right? And I'd like to start by thanking Pearson for promoting this event in partnership with BRAZ-TESOL, right? And it's our pleasure to have a very special guest speaker, Mike Mayer, that is here with us, right? And so let me tell you a little bit about Mike, right? So Mike Mayer is the Director of English Language Research and Design at Pearson. On leaving university, Mike worked as an English teacher in France before entering the world of publishing as a lexicographer. Mike joined Pearson in 2003 and headed up the Longman dictionaries list until his move to learning research and design in 2013. Mike has a BA in French, fancy, a diploma in teaching English as a foreign language, and a master's degree in English and Applied Linguistics from Cambridge University. So without any further ado, I give you Mike Mayer. Mike, thank you very much for being with us. Right.
Okay, thank you. My pleasure to be here. Thank you everyone for giving up this hour of your precious Saturday. Let me share my presentation. Okay, Juliana, I can see you. Give me a thumbs up if you can see my presentation. Yes, we can. So, as Sergio said, if you could keep yourself on mute. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat, and we'll save some time at the end, hopefully, to answer them. And just to say that there are a number of links included in this presentation to further information if you want to find out more about what I'm talking about today. We will send those out to you after the event. We'll put them in the chat, but we'll also send them out to you so that you have a record of the links. So what I'm going to be talking about today is future skills and looking at, you know, what will make our students employable on leaving university. So, do we think our students are prepared for the workplace? Hopefully we can make this session a little bit interactive, and so if you want to just pop a yes or no into the chat, I can see whether or not you think we are preparing our students for the workplace. I've got the chat open on my phone. I don't see anybody yet. Thank you, Juliana. Guessing no, kind of. Don't think so. Could be, possibly, maybe. Really, it depends who you ask. So in this piece of research, when chief academic officers were asked this question, they were pretty confident about equipping their students for future employment. So 96% of them answered yes, they thought they were equipping their students for the workplace. But if you ask employers, the picture looks very different. So only 8% of employers felt that they were receiving candidates for posts with the right skill set that they were looking for. So what is going on here? I want you to think back to when you were 12 years old. Now, for some of us, that's quite a stretch, but think back. Here we go, 12 years old. Don't want to spend an hour looking for me. So there I am. Don't laugh at the hair. It was the 1970s. That was the style. What did you want to be when you left school? Maybe you've always wanted to be a teacher, or maybe you had a dream about being something else. What did you want to be when you were 12 years old? You can type your answer into chat. I wanted to be a tour rep. I wanted to take people away on holidays because I thought that meant that you were always on holiday. But what did other people want to be? I have a journalist, doctor, couple wanted to be teachers. No idea at the age of 12. Another journalist. Oh, and another fellow tour leader. Yes, great. Physical therapist. Okay, thanks for participating. Okay, the point I'm making is certainly for me, none of those jobs on the screen I could even dream about doing when I left university or when I left school, because they didn't exist when I was at school. And the startling statistic is that around 2/3 of 12-year-olds will actually end up in a job that doesn't yet exist. 65% will end up doing a job that does not yet exist. So how do we prepare our students for jobs that don't exist? Another little question. How many jobs have you had in your career to date? How many jobs have you had in your career to date? I think I've had maybe 4. I was a teacher. I was a dictionary writer, a lexicographer. I started out, I was a bingo caller before I did anything else. And now I'm a researcher. So we've got about 4, 3, 4. Okay, so another, I think, startling statistic is that the generation that we know as millennials will have between 12 and 14 different jobs over the course of their career. So they are going to have to keep reskilling and learning new things throughout their career. So where does this leave us? Well, as we know, technology is having quite an impact on jobs, on the workplace, on society, and the newspapers love this story because it makes for really dramatic headlines. Robots will take 800 million jobs by 2030. Robots will take our jobs. We better plan for it now. Robots are taking over the world. Technology is taking away all our jobs. Possibly a little bit dramatic. And looking at this, I was thinking, well, you know, jobs have always changed. Throughout the course of history, jobs have always changed. Take, for example, this job. If you want to just pop into chat, what is this job that you can see in that photo? Oh, so somebody knows the answer already. So that has, most people think it's a window cleaner and it's not. This is somebody who was called a knocker-upper. And this person was employed in the factories and the dockyards in the north of England in the early 1900s to go around and wake people up so that they weren't late for work. The knocker-upper. And then in the 1940s, somebody created the affordable alarm clock and the knocker-upper lost their job. So jobs have always come, they've gone, they've changed, people have had to reskill. And maybe it's true to say that today, jobs are changing more rapidly than they did in the 1900s. And so faced with this, Pearson carried out some research with Oxford Martin School and an organization called Nesta, asking employers, what are the skills that they are looking for and what will they be looking for in 2030? This research was carried out a few years ago, so 2030 was quite in the future. Now, of course, we're rapidly going towards 2030, and when you see the latest research from companies now, it's 2040 and it's becoming 2050. So, but looking to the future, what are those skills that the employers are looking for. And let me just increase that a little bit for you. So they were the skills that employers identified as the top 20 skills they were looking for in their candidates. And as Sergio said, I started off as a teacher, and I've worked in language publishing for about 20 odd years now. And a lot of these skills seem to boil down into the things that traditionally language teachers have called the 21st century skills. Today, now that we're in the 21st century, this term doesn't seem quite as sexy anymore. And so people have stopped using it as much. It was known as the 4 C's, the critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication. You will hear soft skills, future skills, human skills. They all basically mean these skills which, at least today, humans are better at them than computers. And I say at least today, maybe in 100 years, that won't be the case. But today, generally, humans are better at these skills than computers. And so these are the skills that, even for an industry which is being automated, these are the skills that employers are looking for. And if you're on social media like LinkedIn or Facebook, you will see lots of articles talking about the need for soft skills, the need for these collaboration skills, for creativity, which might lead you to think that they're more important than the other skills. But actually, it's just trying to redress the balance. So people know the importance of the STEM subjects. And now we're trying to strike a balance. So really, it's a combination of these hard skills, these STEM subjects, and these human skills, which will make the perfect candidate for a job. And so at Pearson, we've created this, what we call the employability framework. So this is a framework really to summarize the skills that somebody would need in order to secure a job. So starting from the core academic competencies, these are those basic skills of reading, writing, maths, and increasingly digital fluency. So candidates need to be comfortable with technology. You then have those hard skills, the skills that are specific to particular professions. And then here we go, yet another term for the 21st century skills, personal and social capabilities. And they are effectively the soft skills, they are the 4 C's. And at Pearson, in our work around these soft skills, we've also included leadership skills, self-management skills, and social responsibility skills. And then finally, there's an interesting little category known as career knowledge and transition skills. Can anybody guess what would go in this category as a transition skill? What do you think goes in as a transition? Please just type away into the chat. It's a tricky one. When I've presented at conferences on this category seems to the ability to learn and adapt connections between different knowledges. Yep. What I would say, you're thinking too hard. It's much more basic. It's much more basic. So transition in this category, transition means transitioning between education and work, or transitioning between one job and another job. And so these skills are things like interviewing techniques, resume and CV writing, showcasing your qualifications. So the skills you need in order to apply and then secure a job, developing a social media presence increasingly, and you know, we won't go into it in today's presentation, but the need to educate, particularly teenagers, around the dangers of posting.
Okay, você torce ela para cá.
The dangers of posting things on social media that maybe will stay there and will haunt them in the future when they're applying for jobs. So this is our employability framework. But, you know, your English teachers, where does English fit into all of this? So each year at Pearson, we carry out a learner survey. If you're just joining, I have already said we will send the links out after the presentation, so don't worry about seeing links that you can't copy down quickly. We carry out a learner survey to find out various things about our learners, and one of those is, why are you learning English? And as you can see, if that's big enough to read, a number of learners, quite a high percentage of learners, are learning English for employability reasons, either to get a job, be it in their own country with a multinational, in tourism where they need English, or whether it's to travel abroad, possibly to get a promotion in their current job, or, you know, just keeping, and you see that bottom one, keeping their current job because there has been an increased demand for English. So we know that English is important in learners' minds for employability. And there is quite a correlation. A number of studies have shown a correlation in somebody's level in English and their salary. So generally people with higher levels in English command higher salaries in the workplace. So that can also be a motivating piece of information to pass on to those students if they don't see why they should be studying English. English language covers basically every aspect of this framework, from the, you know, learning the general competency in English, the English for specific purposes, so general and business English skills, and then the skills on, you know, how to write letters of application in English, how to interview in English. So English language covers it all. When I started in this current role, we carried out some research with LinkedIn, asking employers about the requirement for English, but also employees about whether or not they were using English in their jobs. And obviously this is a bit self-selecting because we only know the data of people who choose to reply, but quite a high percentage of employees said that English was important for their job. But those same employees had a really low confidence in their English and their ability to communicate effectively at work. And so this led us to question, so why are people lacking the English that they feel they need for employability? And this is when we created something called the Global Scale of English that you may or may not have heard of. I'll talk a little bit about it today, but we'll give you some information to follow up if you're interested. I'm sure you're familiar with the Common European Framework. So the Common European Framework is the most influential standard for language learning and assessment of the past 20 years. But like anything which has been successful, people find there are certain limitations, and I've listed some of those limitations on the screen. The fact that it's focused very much on general English, that it was created for adults and young adults, kind of 15 years and older, not for young learners. It was never created for primary and lower secondary. Then 2/3 of the information is about speaking, which is great. Most learners want to be able to speak in a foreign language, but certainly as a publisher, we create content for all 4 skills, and most learners want to learn 4 skills. So there are gaps in the other 3 skills. If you know the Common European Framework and those levels of A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, it's quite difficult to measure progress on a regular basis if you only have six different points of measurement. So it's quite difficult to motivate learners if every year you test them and they're A2, 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 and they just want to get to B1, but they don't know where they are in A2. So that can be problematic. And generally, teachers found it quite difficult to use in day-to-day teaching. So we wanted to make something a bit more practical for teachers. And so this is when we created the global scale of English. And as part of that, we've created frameworks of learning objectives based on the Common European Framework and including the Common European Framework for the adult sets, but creating a set. The first one is general English, so the closest to Common European Framework. The second one is academic English. The third one is professional English, so business English, English for the workplace. And then a completely separate set, so no Common European Framework in that, for primary and lower secondary learners. Again, pearsonenglish.com/GSE. You can find these on the website. They're all free to download, so you can go off and explore. And obviously today we're looking at the workplace and business English, so we will look at a bit more closely at the learning objectives for professional English. If you download those PDFs, this is the type of thing that you will get. Okay, it's not the most exciting read. It is lists of learning objectives by order of difficulty, but breaking each of the Common European Framework levels down into a numerical scale. So global scale of English is 10 to 90, which goes from pre-A1 to the top of C2. So you will find pages of learning objectives like this. And for business English, this will cover the general English, so the core competencies. It will cover the business specific competencies. And it also covers those transition skills of interviewing and writing CVs in English. So these can help to give you an idea of the level at which a learner could be expected to master these particular learning objectives. If, however, you prefer something a bit more digital, then I would recommend going to the Teacher Toolkit. And again, we'll share the link with you. And we have a saying in English, I don't know if it translates directly into Brazil, but the best things in life are free, right? The sunshine, the flowers, nature, and the GSE Teacher Toolkit. It's all free. You do not have to pay. You do not have to register. You can just go in and find the information you need for the learning objectives, also for grammar and vocabulary, which we won't have time to look at today. But if you're searching for professional learners, okay, the professional learning objectives, instead of choosing a skill which would be reading, writing, listening, speaking, you could choose a specific business skill. For example, job applications, applying for jobs. And at different levels of proficiency, you will find lists of learning objectives that are appropriate to teach learners how to apply for a job. This is for at the high B1 level. So because it's digital, there are a lot of searches that you can do quite easily to find the information that you need. How are we doing for time? We're actually, I don't think we're going to do this little activity, so I'm going to skip over it. I was going to ask you to order these from the lowest to the highest proficiency. These are all learning objectives to do with meetings, but I'm going to crack on because we're running a little bit late and I want to be able to share with you all the information that we've collected. So we have business skills, which you can search on, meetings, applying for jobs, dealing with customers, etc. there are also many teachers out there, maybe we have some on the call today, who teach English for specific purposes. So you maybe have a group of nurses, or you have a group of accountants, or you have people who are learning English for the tourist industry. And so we wanted to create something to support teachers in that area as well. And so what we've done is look at this database of jobs, ONET, a US database, and then aligned the database with these learning objectives. So let me show you what I mean by that. So for example, nurses, this database lists out every task that a nurse would be expected to do. Okay, maintain accurate, detailed reports and records, administer medications to patients and monitor patients for reactions or side effects. Okay, every task that they would do. We have taken each of those tasks and aligned it to language functions. So what would a nurse have to do in English to be able to do this task in an English setting? Okay, this is quite time consuming. And as a teacher, you know, you're probably not going to do this because it's quite challenging. But what you can do now is you can go to the teacher toolkit. You can select job roles, and you can either search the whole of the healthcare profession or just drill down into nurses. I have a group of nurses, and it will give you learning objectives. Okay, could I ask people to go on mute, please, if you're, thank you. Give you a list of learning objectives that would be, you know, they're going to be relevant for nurses because these are linked to the tasks that they have to do in that job. And the global scale of English now, this underpins everything that we do at Pearson. So we use those learning objectives, vocabulary and grammar, to create our courses so that you can teach with those courses. You can then check the progress of students using an assessment which reports on the global scale of English. You receive reports which show you how to show the strengths and the weaknesses of individual students so that you're able to repair. And you go round and round this learning and assessment cycle until the students are ready to take a certification, so to get that piece of paper that they can give to an employer. But is mastery of English enough to secure a job today? So if I think back to when I first joined Pearson, and at the time I was traveling a lot to Japan. In Japan, the level of English is very low in general in the country. And so anybody who spoke good English could quite easily get a job with an international company, for example, Pearson. And they could rise quite high in the company because their English was good. Not necessarily because their business skills were good. Now, I'm not sure that that situation exists anymore, and English is possibly not enough today to get a job. So we need to look at these other skills, these soft skills, these future skills, these personal and social capabilities that employers are saying that they are looking for in the workforce. And we've done a lot of research into these, and what you see on screen are some summaries of the literature review. You will get the link, but I'm going to summarize the key points for you so that you don't have to read through all of these. So what does the research say about these soft skills? The key thing is that these skills need to be taught. They cannot, they will not just be picked up along the way. Okay, they need to be taught. And they take many years to master. And so many people think when we're talking about the soft skills, oh, we can wait till university, or we can wait till upper secondary to start teaching those skills. No. If at all possible, we should start teaching in primary, even in pre-primary, with social and emotional learning, because these skills take so long to master. And that's particularly true from students from a disadvantaged or lower socioeconomic backgrounds who may not see these skills modeled by their family members or by the peers in the community. And here's the key point for today's presentation. Soft skills, I've said that they need to be taught, but they are taught most effectively within the context of teaching other subjects. So when I say they need to be taught explicitly, I don't mean on Monday we'll have a lesson on collaboration, and then on Tuesday we'll have a lesson on creativity, and on Wednesday we'll do critical thinking. No, we need to find ways to teach these skills in the context of maths, science, history, geography, English. One of the best ways to ensure progress is made is, like any learning, giving feedback and giving timely feedback. So at the point of practice, being able to give feedback to the students. And, you know, as is also true for all learning, and particularly, I would say, language learning, you need to have that safe environment in the classroom so that students can experiment without being embarrassed or without being criticized. Yeah. So what am I saying about teaching these skills alongside English? I think the first step is to raise the profile of the skills. As you'll see in what I'm about to say, a lot of these, I think, are being done in the language classroom. These skills are being practiced in the language classroom, but maybe they're not being called out as such. And I'll explain a bit more in a minute. And if you see that, you know, the research says students need to be given the opportunity to practice these skills in the classroom. And you see there the type of tasks, group tasks, researching a topic, sharing their own ideas, suggesting solutions to a problem. These are all things that we do in the language classroom. These are things that we build into our courses as activities to practice the language. So these activities, these tasks, they are there in your materials. So what do we do to take it one step further? And then, for example, something like group work. So you could argue, you know, group tasks, okay, that practices collaboration and working as a team. Well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. And one way in which we can ensure that people are maybe engaging more in the micro skills required for collaboration and teamwork is to actually structure the group activities a little bit more. So one idea is to assign specific tasks to people in the group. So, you know, student A, you're going to be taking notes. Student B, you're going to ensure that everyone speaks. Student C, you're going to ensure that no one interrupts. And then, you know, change those roles in other group works. So breaking it down into those specific micro skills. Feedback, yeah, feedback. We need to let students know what we're looking for. And this will be the end of my talk when I cover this, is that we need to have guidelines around what good looks like, and we need to share that with students. It shouldn't be you know, a guessing game for students. They need to know, like, what is the teacher expecting from me? And this is problematic, and so we've developed something to support teachers in this area. It doesn't always have to be the teacher who's giving the feedback. Of course, it can be the fellow classmates. And then one of the challenges of the language classroom in particular is that we need to teach them the language that will enable them to demonstrate that they have these skills. Maybe they do have at least some level of this skill in their first language, but do they know how to interrupt politely in English? Do they know how to disagree politely in English? If they don't, we're going to have to teach them the phraseology and the vocabulary that they need. And increasingly, you will see this being built into Pearson courses. So this is a typical, I'm sure this looks like, you know, many classroom activity that you've done. You've been working on grammar and vocabulary, and then the kind of everything is building up to this speaking task at the end where students are in groups and they're going to work out what are the best options for lunch or dinner. And you will find teacher's notes. So I've taken this obviously from a Pearson course, and I looked and there's the teacher's notes, and it tells you, yes, they're working in groups, you know, walk around, don't interrupt, let them do the, you know, let them just get on with it, make a note of any mistakes you hear. Are they using the grammar that you've taught them? Are they using the vocabulary that you've taught them? Okay, and then maybe if there's any issues, then you can cover that after the activity is finished. That's kind of standard ELT classroom management. But I don't think it's such a huge step from that to go to this occasionally. So instead of listening out for the grammar and listening out for the vocabulary, maybe you could say, okay, today we're going to be practicing collaboration, and I'm going to be looking out for active listening, checking for understanding. I'm going to be seeing if you're interrupting politely. I'm going to be seeing if you're asking others for opinions. So building a different type of checklist for you to raise the profile of collaboration. This is collaboration in this activity, but maybe the students aren't recognizing it as collaboration. Maybe you're not recognizing it as collaboration. So, you know, just name it as the first step. This is practicing one of those future skills that's called collaboration. And you know what? Employers are looking for good collaborators. So how do we monitor the progress of these skills? And this is challenging, and this is challenging for everyone. And this quote on the screen comes from somebody who's quite senior in the HR business. So I found this in an article around the problems, the issues we have around measuring soft skills, and what this Dr. Dufresne was asking for and saying that we need is a shared definition of these skills and a clear indication of what behaviors learners, or once you're in a company, what employees would demonstrate to show that they've mastered that skill. Okay, this is a challenge. This has been a challenge for a long time. And I think you can probably gather that Pearson loves a framework. And so we have, this is our latest piece of research in this area. We have developed frameworks which describe exactly what Dr. Dufresne was asking for, a definition of what proficiency in these skills looks like at different levels. And so these frameworks have been drawn up by reviewing the literature. We've worked with external experts from learning design, learning research, psychologists, and the group has been international so that we're not too fixated on a US or a UK view of the world, and then reviewed by our internal course book teams and our internal business publishing teams. And so this is now When I was presenting at BRAZ-TESOL in person, we only had one of these frameworks available. So today, actually, is the first time that I am sharing all of these frameworks with anybody in the world. So you, 30 people, are the lucky recipients of the skill development frameworks. And so a really high-level overview of how we did this. Collaboration. That just feels like such a huge thing. Like, what is collaboration? How do you define collaboration? So you can see a definition that we've agreed on the screen, and then broken this down into these three areas: engaging with ideas, interpersonal communication, and task management. These all play a part in collaboration. Those are then broken down even further. So engaging with ideas is broken down into listening and building on ideas, engaging in group dialogue around differing ideas and opinions, and then building a consensus. So if we look at just the first one, listening and building on ideas, I am going to get you to do this little activity. I've got 5 behaviors there, 5 things that you would see a student doing in the classroom if they were practicing this aspect of collaboration. Okay, what I would like you to do is order them from the very lowest level of proficiency in this skill, so just beginning to show mastery of collaboration, up to absolute perfect mastery of collaboration. So just the 5 numbers, it might be 2, 4, 3, 5, 1, 1, 3, 5, 4, 2. You can just type them into the chat. I'll give you a couple of minutes of me not speaking so that you can focus. Okay, and when you think you have an answer, please feel free to pop it in the chat. Okay, so thank you for the 3 responses I can see there. All of them different, interestingly. So that just shows you how difficult these frameworks are to create. Okay, nobody's saying this is easy. It's a really difficult thing to do. You don't have to worry, we've done it. So the actual answer was 25134. Did anybody get that? No, I don't see that in the chat. That's okay. Participating is half the fun. So what you will see in these frameworks are from emerging. So the basic skill is like listening without interrupting or interrupting politely, right the way up to mastery and more sophisticated skills. So remember this task, then I said, oh, it should be quite an easy jump to be able to create these notes. Well, these can help support creating those look-fors. You wouldn't be looking for everything in every activity. You should just focus on particular aspects, but these frameworks will help you to create these checklists of what to look for if you're focusing on this particular aspect. Equally, these frameworks are not really, well, they're not ready-made assessment rubrics. But again, they can be used to develop assessment rubrics and with amongst your colleagues to get a common understanding of what the different levels of mastery look like. So all of this information, I'm going to skip over that because we won't have time for questions. All of this information is on the efficacy evidence about learning website. Again, we're going to share this with you, but you can download all of those frameworks and you have a link to more of the information that I've talked about around employability skills. And with that, I will stop talking and see if there were any questions. And you can either come off mute, you can pop your question into chat. We can pop the links into the chat.
So I'm gonna share the links, Mike.
Okay, I was going to say, when I say we, I don't mind me. I don't mean me. That's the polite we. Somebody else will be sharing. There we go. Those are, so you might want to click. You've got links there to that future skills report. You've got links to the skills development framework that I just showed you, the teacher toolkit. Lots of different resources and readings if you want to read more on this subject. I will now stop sharing. And thank you for your time today.
Right. We thank. Well, before we officially thank you, though I thank you right now. We do have some time for questions. I don't know if participants would like to ask questions. We have a couple minutes because that was really a lot of.
Hi. Hello. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Like, I've been watching lots of people talking about like soft skills, and I'd like to tell you that this is the best presentation I've watched.
Are we still recording? Yes, we're still recording. Good. Okay. Thank you.
Make sure you are. Make sure you are. Like, it is, honestly. And I'd like to ask you a question because, like, as a teacher, as an English teacher, I think we all here, we know about the importance of all those skills.
Yeah.
But it's kind of hard because we all work for different institutions and we have people above us, and they can't sometimes understand the importance of what we're talking about or what we see. So have you thought about having that published like in different languages so that other people, and I'm talking about like
Ministries of Education, for
right,
example? Yeah.
That's it.
So actually, that's a really interesting, because when I was touring in the region, so I went to Dominican Republic, and in Dominican Republic, we presented to the Minister of Education and the people who were quite high up in the government. And I was a bit thrown the day before when they said, your audience won't understand English. Like, okay, this is going to be good because my Spanish is pretty basic. So I had a translator who was translating, but the framework, so those frameworks I showed you, I only had collaboration at the time, that was translated into Spanish to share with the Ministry of Education to give them an idea. So I think that is absolutely on point, because the people that we're trying to convince are not necessarily people who speak English. So we do need to translate them. They are published, as in they are on a website now. We're just, as I said, this is the very first time we've shared them with anybody. We will start doing promotion now. So you'll see promotion on LinkedIn about these frameworks, because they are the first of their type. So it's quite significant, I think, in advancing, giving some practical tools on how to move the conversation forward. Because as you say, Andrea, people talk about it, and I think people still dismiss it. And part of that is because, I mean, honestly, teachers have got enough to think about just teaching their subject. And then when you say, okay, and now I want you to teach future skills as well, like, okay, So we just need to give them as many practical examples and resources as we can. So yes, I think your idea is excellent, and we've done it for one in Spanish.
Yeah, we are looking forward to having it in Portuguese.
Okay, Pearson, Brazil, take that away and get them translated now. Okay. Thank you, Andrea. It's in hand.
Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Thank you.
Kasia just sent us a question.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Okay.
So, just as you have mentioned about Japanese people who do not speak English, right? So, question
How
is,
do you see Brazilians? Yes. Ooh. Should we stop the recording? No. Okay. So, I think it is probably true to say that the general perception is that people in Brazil have quite a low level of English in general. I do remember the initiative to teach all the taxi drivers English ahead of the Olympic Games. And I came, not for the Olympic Games, but for work. My taxi driver certainly did not speak a word of English, so it was quite an interesting journey. I think the level is, and I think there's, I'm sure you asked the question because you think the same, right? That generally there is something fundamentally not working in the state system, that, you know, Pearson, but other publishers as well, are really working to see what can we do to improve this. And again, when I was in Brazil, we have meetings with the Ministry of Education to look at how can they raise the level of proficiency. And there are, we were talking about Mato Grosso before. I don't know whether it's the north one or the south one, I've no idea, but there are initiatives there that Pearson is leading to raise the level of proficiency and, you know, present company accepted, raise the level of English of teachers as well. Because that, I think the problem that the ministry is acknowledging is, you know, there aren't enough teachers with a high enough level of English to be able to, fine if you're only teaching A1, but at some point somebody's going to have to teach the kids who are B1, and if they don't have at least a B2 level, then it's kind of challenging. So huge opportunities, that's all I will say. Huge opportunities. But I think you're still a bit higher than Japan, if that's any consolation. In Japan, the average level of English at university undergraduates is A2. Yeah.
Really? Wow. That's shocking.
Yeah, it is. It is. In fairness to them, it is a very different language to Japanese. Okay, you could argue that, you know, Portuguese is a bit closer, and so there is less of an excuse. But anyway, that's for a different conversation.
I think we have time for one more question. I don't know if there are.
Plenty of time for anybody else to come off mute and say it's the best presentation they've ever heard in their lives. Lots of time.
Well, actually, I have a question.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I was just waiting, right? Just, because I mean, I thought it was really interesting, the idea of incorporating the practice of soft skills into our lessons, and to some extent, we've always done that, right? What I think it's a particular challenge is doing that with elementary students, right? Because I mean, when you're doing this with intermediate and advanced students, as they already have the language, or at least some command of the language, things get simpler, right? Both in terms of them commenting on those skills, right? I mean, okay, you use that, you listen to that attentively, blah, 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 blah. and also for us teachers to explain that, right?
Yeah.
So I'd like to listen from you. I mean, if you've heard of any experience of doing that with elementary students in English, or and obviously, I mean, we have the advantage of here in Brazil, most of our classes are of monolingual students. I mean, they all speak Portuguese. So how do you see this? I mean, like doing this in Portuguese, but my question is, have you ever seen this been done in English with elementary students? And how did this, you know, like, how do you go about that?
Yeah. So the simple answer is no, I've not seen it done at low levels in English. But I was about to say that I'm sure that your language institutions promote English only in the classroom, right? And often parents demand that, and you know, students kind of want that. It's a bit of an outdated concept now for the monolingual classroom, that actually judicious use of first language is absolutely acceptable. And if you read the update to the Common European Framework that was published in 2017, they are now actually promoting what they call plurilingual education, so using other languages in the language classroom. Because at the end of the day, somebody learning English is going to be going out in the world and using English alongside their first language and translating for members of their family who don't speak English. So translating from English into, you know, so I'm not suggesting we go back to a grammar translation methodology, but what I am saying is, you know, use, and where you have all the same, you know, first language speakers in the classroom, you could do this in Portuguese. You could certainly give the feedback in Portuguese. So even at the lower levels, and well, I mean, you won't tell anybody, but you know, we're currently working on a project to identify the language that you need to be able to demonstrate these soft skills in English at different levels of proficiency. So, you know, we're not going to be teaching an A1 level student, I beg to differ. Okay, no, we don't teach them that. But what is it you can teach at A1 that means that they are disagreeing politely? Okay, you are going to have some of the basics of language. So maybe integrating these skills, possibly wait till you get to A2. You know, you've probably got enough going on at A1 before you get to, you know, but I don't think you need to wait until your students are B1, B2 to start integrating. And if feedback in Portuguese works, or even just, you know, talking about these skills, you know, in the break or whatever, I think that will be the way to go. I think that was a very waffly answer. I do apologize.
No, I mean, it's a good answer. I mean, it's absolutely, and it does make sense, right? We have one more question. I don't know if we have the time for one more question.
I have the time. It's only 6 o'clock on a Saturday evening. It's not time to start drinking just yet, so we're good.
Well, speak for yourself. All right, okay. So Cassie has a question.
How about you also mentioned the soft skills are better when applied with other subjects? Yeah. How about interdisciplinary in English language schools? I'm not sure I understand the question. What's the Kasia, do you want to explain? Yeah, go for it.
Hello, good
Hi.
evening. I was thinking that in primary schools, it's easy to develop projects with other subjects, but in specific English language schools, in general,
Okay.
I can see much more textbook activities and not much interdisciplinary with other subjects that are away from the book, or even with other subjects that are not concerning in the textbook. So the question is, how could we approach those other subjects?
I have no idea. That's all to do with, you know, school management. And I think, you know, we do see an increasing rise in the bilingual school where they're trying to teach these other subjects in English. But I think the point that I would make there is that our course books, not just ours, all ELT course books are really rich in bringing other topics right into the classroom. So I think those skills of researching a project, okay, you won't be doing it at A1 level, but you know, the group discussions, the creative thinking of solutions for problems and pros and cons, advantages. I just think our books are really rich and ripe for teaching these future skills without having to collaborate with the science department to do something. I mean, maybe that would be great, but as you say, it's probably not going to happen very quickly. So I think, well, you know, whilst you're master of your own classroom and your own choice of course books, then you can be master of integrating these. And, you know, another expression I would say is, we don't have to boil the ocean. I mean, we don't have to do everything at the same time. Just start introducing the concept, start mentioning it to students so that when they're going for job interviews and they see those job descriptions looking for, you know, good communication skills, good collaborators, team players, they know what it kind of refers to. But thanks for your question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. I think unfortunately it's time to end the session, right? So that Mike can go and have some drinks. It's nearly time to start, right?
Nearly.
All right. Okay. So I've shared the links again, right? In case you haven't copied them, right? So you can copy and paste. We're also going to share this. Email this to you later on, right? So, Mike, I'd like to thank you very much. It was not only very interesting, but very informative as well. I mean, I've taken lots of notes, lots of materials that I'd like to check right after this talk. So thank you very, very much. I'd also like to thank Pearson, Juliana, and all the team that helped us put this event together, right? And I hope this is the first of many, right? So thank you very much. Thank you all of you also that joined us, right? And just before I say goodbye, right? I mean, I don't know if you can see my background. This is the logo for our next international conference. We've just had a conference now in July. Mike was here with us. We had the pleasure to have him here in person. And our next conference is going to happen next year, right? from July the 13th to the 15th. And the good news is that this is going to be an online conference, right? So so then we have the opportunity to reach out and have more people participating with us, right? So I'd like to invite you all to be with us in this event, right? And I hope, Mike, you can also be with us for this event. It would be a pleasure to have you with us again, right?
Absolutely, anytime. Thank you, everybody, for your time. I think I'm the only Mike Mayer on LinkedIn, so if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, please do.
All right, okay, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. As I said, someone asked for the recordings for this for the session. It will be available, right? I mean, both on the website, and I'm going to talk to Juliana so that we can see how we can make it available for those of you who are not TESOL members. Okay, so this is it. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Juliana.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pearson. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Mike.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.
Thank you.